it's almost impossible to imagine what life is like for somebody living on $2 a day. You certainly couldn't do it from London or New York. I think you have to actually go out and see what life is like. You have to see it, you have to taste it, you have to smell it to really understand that. But go out, try to be very, very open, be sensitive, but don't go out with any agenda, because the answer actually might be something that you can't do anything about anyway. And if you go out with a predetermined agenda that I want to build a mobile phone app, or I want to build a technology app or a website, or do something, you almost impose it on the people that you meet, because you want the answer to be what the skill set you have is, and it doesn't usually work that way. So I think anthropology is very, very useful for this, and obviously anthropology was my major at university. Anthropologists don't really impact, or aren't supposed to really impact, when they go out to a study area. The whole concept of participant observation is that you sit back and you watch and you observe real life, in inverted commas. The argument could be that a white person sitting in a village with a notebook is actually going to change things, because people may well behave differently because they're there. But the idea is that you don't go in and you don't try to forge any kind of situation where your ideas or your solutions can be imposed on the communities. I think that's really, really important. And too many people do go out with an agenda. And I didn't. For the first 10 years doing work in Africa, I never intended to fix anything. I was really interested. I was interested in what the problems were. I was interested in why things were so bad. I was interested in why or how you could throw tens of billions of dollars at a problem and still not be appearing to really fix it. I found that quite fascinating. But I never had any preconception ever that I would build anything that would be useful. It was almost by accident that happened, and I think sometimes that serendipity is the best way for it to happen. I think the grounding I've had spending a lot of time in developing countries, working with communities and working with grassroots non-profits and living in those places rather than sort of flying in for a week and then leaving. I think those experiences have given me a really solid understanding of what life is like on the ground for those people. And when I then read of a project proposal which is talking about how iPads can be useful for African farmers, it's immediately obvious. And it should actually be immediately obvious to everybody, but it's sadly not. But it should be immediately obvious that iPad apps for African farmers are only going to work if African farmers have iPads, and many of them don't. Very few people that many of my friends particularly have iPads, and they're not ubiquitous, they're not everywhere, they're not like sort of $15, $10 mobile phones. So when you see these ideas and you start to read about the things that people are working on, and you've got an understanding of the target audience, that rural community or those rural farmers or those community healthcare workers, you just instinctively know straight away whether it's doomed to failure and whether it's just a crazy idea which is being led by the technology rather than by the solution. You know the people that actually have the experience of working with the people they're trying to help, because quite often they are the lower tech solutions. You can grow with your users as their adoption of technology increases. So, somebody 5 years ago who may have had a dumb phone, and you may have been working on interactive voice response solutions with them or text message based solutions with them, maybe 5 years later they do start to get a smartphone. So then you can start thinking about apps, but you grow with your users, build for what the people you're trying to have in their hands, and that's the problem people actually tend to overlook.